Hey buffers, welcome back to MovieBuffs, the podcast where Will and I talk about all things movies and TV in Kenya and beyond. Happy to be here.
Happy to be here, guys.
Yeah, it's been a good week. It's Valentine's Day week, so all you lovers out there, whether you're booed up or not, I hope that you had a great Valentine's Day. We did too, actually. We went to a really cool event. We went to a drive-in movie at Gigiri Courtyard, which is where Solograno is. It was really cute. They had this like Valentine's Day event where you could go watch a drive-in movie, get some dinner. It was so cute.
Yeah, it was really nice.
There are some technical difficulties in the beginning because they tried to do it they tried to distribute the sound by way of like frequency, like on the radio. First of all, who even listens to radio anymore? Like I could tell even people like around were like, oh, I haven't used the radio forever. Yeah. So there were a lot of like confused people. And then they didn't, so instead of like taking over a radio station, they created their own frequency, which ended up having
they took over a radio.
Oh, they did?
Yeah, because so it was supposed to be on this frequency, and it wasn't working because you would hear like a conversation happening in the background.
Yeah.
So like the movie audio would be there, but then there's like a fuzzy like like in the background, and so we couldn't use the radio. So they had like this like just one speaker, and I guess they just put it on full. And we just had the windows down so we could hear it. But
so we watched two movies. It was How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, and that's when the audio was really, really rough. So like you said, they basically like were just taking the frequency of a show. So the show was going on as we were like trying to listen to the movie. So it would be like we'd hear Kate Hudson for a little bit, then we'd hear like the radio show. It was rough. But no, it was cute. I definitely So we ended up just using for the second movie, which was Brown Sugar, which is awesome, that you really loved. They ended up just using the speaker that was there. So honestly, the people who were in the back were screwed. But we were in a pretty good spot. We got there relatively early in comparison to other people. So it worked out for us.
Yeah, and the food was really good too.
The food was really good. Yeah, we got food from Gropper, which is a seafood restaurant in Gigiri Courtyard. If you're ever there, I know Solo Grano, it's a hot button spot, but if you ever go there and you're interested in getting something different, definitely check out Gropper. That red snapper was delish.
And I think you can sit in the main area and get food from Gropper. So
Yeah, and Brown Sugar was great. Wasn't it a really good movie?
Yeah, so what did you think about the movies, like the two movies?
Yeah, for sure. First of all, they could be more polar opposite because How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days could not be whiter.
It's like the whitest.
It's the whitest of the white. Yeah. It's Kate Hudson and it's Matthew McConaughey. All right. And they just like...
It's like a romantic comedy, but he's still being Matthew McConaughey.
Essentially, yeah. So the premise of the movie is that, so Kate Hudson is this journalist for this women's magazine. And whenever they show journalism in TV or on movies, it always makes me laugh. They always make it seem very glamorous, which is not the case. And like they're paid very high, which is definitely not the case. But yeah, so she works for this women's magazine, and her whole kind of character arc is that like she's writing stuff that she doesn't really care about. Like she wants to write about like politics and like world peace, but she's too busy writing about like 10 ways to please your man, or like 5 bras that will get your tatas up to your neck, like like dumb shit like that, right? And so she definitely feels that frustration. So she stumbles into this assignment that's essentially, okay, how do you lose a guy in 10 days, right? So the whole premise is that she's gonna go date somebody, do everything that's considered wrong, right? And this is a whole other conversation about like 2000s movies and this whole idea of like, if you act a certain way, you can like coax a guy into loving you. That's not how it works. But very much was the messaging of the era, right? So the whole thing is that she's going to go and she's going to do all these things, like be gross, be clingy, all these things to like push him away. At the same time.
So that she can break up with him in 10 days.
Yeah, so that he can break up with her. Yeah. That's the whole thing. So I guess it's kind of like a reverse psychology of teaching women, okay, don't do these things to keep your man. Mm-hmm. On the flip side, Matthew McConaughey is this like like this savant in like the female mind. He works for this jewelry company and he's in marketing, and his whole thing is that like, oh, like he always gets the big clients because he is the only person who understands how a woman's brain works, which hilarious. He's like,
because of the jewelry, I guess.
Yeah. So he works for the jewelry company, and so but he's like he's like the best person at like creating campaigns for women. And so yeah, there are a couple women in his office who are really jealous of him. And so they're like, they're out one night and they're like, oh, like I bet that you can't make this girl like fall in love with you. Like whatever, like they make a bet and they like pick somebody. These girls happen to know that Kate Hudson's doing this How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days story, so they're like, oh, we'll pick the girl for you, and they end up picking her. So hijinks ensue, right? So we have two characters who are trying to do the opposite to each other, and of course naturally they fall in love, and that's the movie.
Yeah.
It's easy, you know what I mean? Like, it's uncomplicated. It's such a 2000s like basic movie. You already know what's gonna happen from the beginning that you watch this movie. So like,
Yeah, I thought it was okay.
Yeah. It's not groundbreaking. Like, I think definitely in comparison to some of its other, like, like some of the other rom-coms of the era, like it's a little, like it's lower on the list for me. You know what I mean? Like, I'd rather watch like a 13 going on 30 versus like, this movie. But it's not bad. Should you go run to watch it? No.
Nah.
But if it's there, sure. And if you're in the mood for something that's easy, if you've had a stressful day and you want something familiar and uncomplicated, why not?
Yeah. I just felt like it was a bit slow. Like.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was cool. But the second movie you watched, I really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
Brown Sugar.
Yeah.
So Brown Sugar was cool. When I was young, I had the DVD in my house all the time, but I guess since it was like a romantic movie, I never watched it when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But I always used to see the DVD.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when they said they were gonna play it, I was like, that's cool, man.
Yeah.
Yeah. It was a really good movie. It was like way better than I thought it would be.
Yeah, so to give you context on what the movie's about, it's about these two people who are best friends, and it's essentially, how do I even describe this movie? Okay, there are two people who are friends who,
like, from childhood friends.
Yeah,
like,
they're childhood friends. They both love hip hop. That's definitely like one thing that they connect on.
Tay Diggs and who?
Sanaa Lathan.
Okay.
Yeah, and the whole film is like there's this allegory between the love of hip hop and their love for each other, and so like oftentimes it's kind of like they love each other but they don't know kind of deal.
Yeah.
So the entire film really is like just about them like realizing their feelings for each other. Tay Diggs' character goes on to get married. That's a whole mess. So now Lathan almost gets married. That's a whole mess. And so the whole thing is really just kind of them like stumbling to figure out that they love each other with kind of like these strong, like they're great hip hop cameos. Common Mos Def, the list goes on.
I think that's what made the movie special for me.
Yeah.
They kind of so the movie had like a really big hip hop element to it.
Yeah.
I think the first scene in the movie, it's even like a, what do you call that? Like a montage? What do you call that?
Yeah.
It's like a compilation of clips, like of just rappers talking about hip hop, I guess.
Yeah, like almost like mockumentary style.
Yeah,
so like,
that's the word.
They're like confessional type,
yeah,
being
yeah,
like, yeah, man, back in the day, like like a lot of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, so the movie starts like that. Then it's just this story between these two people. But the theme of the movie is like, like it could have happened, but it didn't. And then now they're still like close friends, like as adults.
Yeah.
But they have their own lives. This guy's married and all that. And
well, not really, right? Because like they're still very much in each other's lives when their other relationships happen, and that's probably one of the issues why their relationships didn't work out. So Sanaa Lathan's character starts off in California, then she moves back to New York, which is where they're from and where Tay Diggs lives. And so like it's kind of about them, like like you kind of, when you're a good friend, you go from being long distance to being in the same place. Like it's kind of like like it accelerates their friendship and their romance as well, and that closeness remains even as they have other relationships. And that's part of that demise because they're very like locked into each other. Yeah.
So like the way the whole hip hop thing ties into it is the song by Common called "I Used to Love Her." Mm-hmm. It's basically a song where he's talking about how he used to love hip hop like at its purest form when it was like like back in the old days and all that. And it's kind of also a metaphor, like he's talking about a girl that he used to love, but he still loves her even though she's changed. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So they just tied that whole theme into the movie, and there's a scene like where they even like get together and they're like reciting the lyrics to each other like really randomly, and I just thought that was so cool.
Yeah. If you've watched Love and Basketball, this is the same movie. I actually was watching it and I was like, yo, this is like the same movie as Love and Basketball. Just Love and Basketball is basketball. And then in Brown Sugar, it's hip hop. It's the same exact thing. Like the framework of their romance, like it's all set to hip hop. Like that's the vehicle in which the love story is told. And in Love and Basketball, it's basketball.
Yeah.
It's the same movie. They literally like, and Sanaa Lathan is in Love and Basketball, so I thought that was really interesting. But yeah, I mean, I think what's most special about the movie is the aesthetic, right? Like I think, you know, like black 2000s New York is such a cool vibe.
And the music was so good in the movie.
The music was so good. Again, like it's a satisfying, sexy, easy story with this like great backdrop, with this great music, and it's just like it makes you feel good. It's definitely like a feel good kind of movie. It makes you feel cozy, makes you feel cool. Yeah, it was really fun to watch.
Yeah, I enjoyed it. It was really cool to watch it on like a big screen, like at a drive-in movie. That was really cool.
Yeah, it made the experience really, really fun. I thought it really worked for that movie. Probably even better than 10. Oh.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days.
My brain just completely blanked out. I was like, what am I talking about?
Yeah.
How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days. Yeah.
It's also just a better movie across the board.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, definitely. And Launch, there are so many fun cameos. Boris Kojo, Nicole Ari Parker. Mm-hmm. The list goes on. Again, I can't even remember. There are so many
Most
people.
Most Def.
Yeah, Most Def is like one of the main characters, low-key. Like he's
like one of the main
He was
characters.
acting. Yeah. It's like a time capsule of a very special time in cinema to me, where it was like, you know, like it's just vibes. Do you know what I mean? Like you gotta love it.
Definitely.
Yeah. Should we head to the main event?
Yeah, let's do that.
We're here to rant about
the main chorus, if you will.
We're here to rant about one movie and one movie only, and that's You People.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Netflix's latest joint. Well, I mean, I'm sure there are later ones, but you know what I mean.
A polarizing movie, if there ever was one.
Polarizing, indeed. You know, it's so funny because our feelings. I think that this is the movie where our feelings have changed the most about it than anything else that we've watched. Like
I've never had my feelings about a movie like change that quickly.
Yeah, so
having only seen it once,
literally. Will and I watched this a few weeks ago, and we're like, yeah, this is cute. You know what I mean? Like,
Jonah first there were laughs, you know.
Laughs. Yeah. There was chuckles for sure. Jonah Hill's character was funny. You know, Jonah Hill, he plays this white man who's like he's very like in the culture. You know, he has a podcast with his black LGBTQ friend. And so and they talk about like hip hop and life and shit like that. So he's one of those white people. You know what I mean? He's one of those white people. And so yeah, he's just like this, you know, I think he's meant to be mid to late 30s. I think that's what they were going for. Jewish guy who loves black culture, who is like just trying to find a lady. And then he finds one. Here I go again. Brain completely blanking. What's the word I was trying to think of? It's not coming to me. Anyways, he randomly ends up meeting his love interest, who's Lauren London. And so the movie is about them falling in love, but not really. It's just about their parents, the culture clash between Lauren London's like very like Black Panther family, like very like militant Black family, and Jonah Hill's very like Jewish family.
Yeah, just like aloof, I guess. Unconcerned. I don't know. Like,
not even. Yeah, Yeah, you know, I went to a school with a lot of white Jews. Shout out AU. Shout out the white Jews. Love y'all. And so that's just like those are the people that I went to college with. Like they're just like, you know what I mean? Like they're just, you know, they're about their culture. You know what I'm saying? Like a little ignorant, a little, you know, like it's a very like tight knit community. Shout out the Jews. So like they just don't know a whole lot about the outside, which I actually don't think is dissimilar from Lauren London's family. I think they're very like. You know what I mean? Anything outside of Black is a little foreign to them, which is where the drama happens.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like Will said, you know, we watched it the first time and we're like, yeah, like it's cute, right? Like there's some laughs, right? Like there's some fun faces, like, you know, Eddie Murphy, you know, like it's cute. Then afterwards, we really changed our tune. I will say scrolling on TikTok definitely made me think about the movie differently. Because, you know, I will say when we were watching it, we were like, this is so extra, right? Like I think like no one's family would act like that, specifically the Black family. I feel like the white family, I didn't think that they were that bad. And that's my hot take. I don't think, because the whole thing was meant to be like.
I agree. I feel like people would agree with that because.
You know what I mean?
It was like, it just felt like they were trying to make the white family look like, oh, look how ignorant and like racist they are. But like, I mean. I grew up in South Africa, guys. Like I know what like racism is. It's just like they were just kind of trying to make them look like that, but they weren't really like, you know what I mean? Like,
for sure.
It was just, the whole thing was just extra. Like,
you know, as Black people, we're allowed to react to different things in different ways, of course. But for me, all of the things that Julie Lee Dreyfus's character, who's meant to kind of be like, you know, it's Eddie Murphy, and then it's the dad on the Black side, it's the mom on the white side, which is Julie Lee Dreyfus. They're meant to be like the extra bad ones. But you know, like for me, nothing that Julie Lee Dreyfus's character did would really insult me. Like I honestly would think it's hilarious. Like I would have been dying. Like the whole part about like her trying to like figure out like the vernacular for like wigs. I would have thought that's hilarious.
Yeah, that's
even
funny.
like the situation. There's a scene where they're in a nail salon, and I guess like the like receptionist like lets somebody go like ahead of them or something, and Julie Lee Dreyfus is like, "This is racism." I would have been like, I would have thought it was so funny. I would have been like, you know what? Sit down, social justice warrior.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, it would have been funny to me. But Lauren London was really in a huff about it. And one thing, and also there's this one scene that really bothered me where she's talking about how, you know, she'd had, first of all, like, there's so much to talk about with this movie, but Lauren London's character, first of all, is so one-dimensional, right? Like, we know so little about her, and you know, the movie sacrifices their romance, who they are as individuals, for like the culture clash, and it really shows, right? Like you're not invested in Jonah Hill and Lauren London's relationship at all. First of all, they have negative chemistry. I barely believe these two are friends, right? And so besides all of that, we'll get to that later. There's this one scene where Lauren London has just lost this job that she like applied for. She's a stylist, or a costume designer, I think, something like that. Again, the movie doesn't spend too much time building her character, so who knows? And so she's like complaining to Jonah Hill's character. At this point, they're engaged. It's like into their relationship. And Jonah Hill's like, well, like, you know, like I know like my dad has some connections, like my family has some connections, like let me help you out. And Lauren London is like, how dare you? And I'm like, girl, if you don't sit your woke ass down.
That's what was weird to me, is like in real life, yeah, if someone's like, oh yeah, like you're trying to do this, I know some people, let me talk to them, see like what, you'd be like, oh yeah, for sure, like
for sure.
But she was like, oh, like what?
She was so offended. I'm like, no, like he's trying to help you. Like if you are there unemployed, you better take that help.
She's like, oh, I didn't work like all my life this hard just for you to be able to come here and do it. I'm like, I mean.
And of course she tied it to him being white and having connections. And I'm like, you know what? Take those connections. Who cares? Like, let me tell you something. If you happen to be a white Jewish guy whose family was in Hollywood, I would be like, get me a job. Get me a writing job tomorrow. I would be like, give it to me. I don't care. Like, take it. It was so extra. She got so upset with him when it was so obvious he was just trying to support her and help her. And her ego was so huge and it was so annoying. And I was like, girl, you're being so dumb. This movie is so extra, like in the way of like, just the way that they wrote it. Like you can just tell that like, it just, it was so extra.
For me, the worst thing about the movie was Eddie Murphy.
Yeah.
Like his character was like the worst. I just felt like they could have made that character in a way that it would actually be funny. I don't think he was being funny, and like, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, for sure. Especially like even his performance, right? Like he's monotone the entire time, right? Like you don't see any, like he's pretty much speaking in the same tone and in the same, like there's no like variation. We see no depth. We see no like happy, sad. Like he's the same the entire movie. I thought he was so boring to watch. I thought he was a boring character. I thought he was a one-dimensional character.
Sorry.
You know what I mean? Like just so boring and like just like a stereotype. Like I think this whole thing of like the overprotective Black father is so tired and so like it's so 2000 and late. I cannot believe that in 2023 someone got away with writing a character like that. Yeah. It's so over. And especially as somebody who's like, that's not my dad's energy at all. Like you know what I mean? Like it's so like, it's such an eye roll to me because it's like not every like Black dad's like, I gotta protect my daughter. You know what I mean? Like it makes us almost seem like we're not evolved as people, which annoys me. You know what I mean? Like it's such a stereotype. And then I don't even know why they got Nia Long, because they could have cast me in that. She didn't do nothing. Yeah,
that's what I was saying. Like this movie, like they had crazy cast and they just wasted
nothing.
It's like Nia Long had like, I swear she had like 4 lines in the whole movie.
And they were all just to agree with the husband.
And it's Nia Long. Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Yeah.
And who else? Like there was a couple people like where it's, what's that guy who Jonah Hill's dad was? Do you know his name?
No, I forget his name.
Yeah, I forget his name. But yeah, that guy too.
The part where he played the piano and started singing John Legend.
Yeah.
You see, to me, I would have loved that. I would have been like, get it, Dad. You better sing, Dad. But Lauren London is like, how dare you appropriate my character, my culture? I'm like, can you just relax? Jesus Christ. White people can sing John Legend. And that's the takeaway from this episode. White people, it's just relax. Relax. It was so extra. And the movie got so exhausting because it was just like every little thing was an issue. If like Jonah Hill's character would breathe one way, it's an issue. Like every little thing was an issue. And also like realistically, like if this is how the couple, if that's how it really was for them, they wouldn't have ended up together. So already, but besides the fact that like they don't invest any time in showing us this relationship, it's just like, and so from our perspective as viewers, these people, we zoom past their relationship, then we get to this point in the movie very early on where it's like, okay, like now we have to do the whole family thing. It's like, well, why are they doing this? They've been together for 2 seconds in our experience, right? Like they had, because again, they haven't built this romance for us, probably because Lauren London obviously is not, like there's no chemistry there at all.
Yeah.
Nothing. Dry. Should we talk about the kiss?
Yeah. So apparently they CGI'd the kiss between Jonah Hill and
the final kiss at their wedding.
Lauren London. Yeah. At their wedding.
Yeah.
Like,
to clarify, Jonah Hill and Lauren London were there, and they got right here, didn't kiss. They CGI'd it. And if you look at the movie, you can tell because they kind of do this thing where it's like, you know, like they go lean in like this.
Yeah, and then like their faces kind of look weird a little bit.
Yeah, and then there's like light and flowers and like it you know what I mean? Like they do like a oh like thing, and I'm just like, I was like, yo, like that's for real. They didn't kiss.
Yeah, man.
There was no lip contact.
We didn't even notice it when we watched it.
Yeah, and there's even earlier in the movie, there's this one scene where like, you know, it's one of those like montage relationship scenes, and so I think they're like in the bathroom or something, and like Lauren London's looking at herself in the mirror, and like Jonah Hill like comes up behind her and kind of does one of those like cuddle things, and like you don't believe it. It doesn't look like, I don't believe it for anything. I think, and we even mentioned this when we were watching Brown Sugar, right? Like Sanaa Lathan and Taye Diggs, you can't tell me they didn't have sex because that chemistry was there. She was kissing, and you know, Sanaa Lathan already, like when she's making out in movies, like she's giving tongue, she's giving teeth, she's just really getting, she's going for it. And so like for them, like I believed it, like that, like, you know what I mean? Like they had that like electricity where I was like, oh, like this is like real. Jonah Hill and Lauren London had none of that. Yeah. None of it. Even in the small moments where they're meant to be like holding hands, like you just don't believe it. Like you don't believe it at all. It's like you're holding hands with like your cousin or like your brother. Yeah, just completely dry. Nothing at all.
Yeah, it didn't make you believe anything. And then like at the end of the movie, like also it's so weird. So like there's the whole thing of them like just wanting to be with each other so bad, even though like you don't feel like that,
right?
And then the whole thing of the parents. So the two villains in the movie is basically Jonah Hill's mom and Lauren London's dad, which is Eddie Murphy and
Julia Louis-Dreyfus.
Yeah, so that's Jonah Hill's mom. So the whole movie, those two, like the mom and then the dad, you're just looking at them like the dad hates Jonah Hill, his family, the fact that he's white, all that,
right?
Her parents, they just don't care. They say insensitive things all the time,
right?
They're like wondering why he doesn't just want like a Jewish girl, whatever. But like the mom and then Eddie Murphy, Julianne Dreyfus and Eddie Murphy, like at the end of the movie there's like a 2-minute sequence where they just like kind of get over it.
It's so sloppy.
Yeah, I don't know who told Julianne Dreyfus, and then she was like, oh yeah, by the way, like,
no, I think she just always felt bad.
Yeah, she just felt bad. And then now, Eddie Murphy's in the movie, his brother is D. Ray Davis. Shout out D. Ray. And there's just a scene where they're just driving in the car.
Oh, no, it's Mike Epps.
Oh, it is Mike Epps.
It's Mike Epps.
Shout out Mike Epps, man. I forgot. Yeah. So Mike Epps is just like, yeah, like you kind of tripping, low key. He says some shit like that. And then like Eddie Murphy's like, oh yeah, he's like, oh yeah, but you hurt your daughter. And then Eddie Murphy's like, oh, I get it now. And then they like get them back together, and you're just supposed to like be cool with them now. And it's just like, it just didn't, for me, I was like, no, I still hate Eddie Murphy's character. Like,
of course.
Nah, like you can't just end it like that. Like
No.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, in terms of the writing of this movie, they put all of the in terms of character development, that all went to Jonah Hill's character. He was the only character to me
yeah,
who was
facts.
compelling, who had interesting internal conflict. Like I think this whole thing of him realizing that he might love Black culture, but he can never really identify with the Black experience. Like that to me was compelling. I'm like, okay, yeah. Like there's this whole, like he talks about on this podcast. Like we see, I understand his growth and I understand that as a character. Everybody else, sloppy. Nothing.
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 Yeah. Not even Lauren in London.
Lauren London learned nothing. Eddie Murphy learned nothing. Julie Lee-Dreyfus, nothing, because she pretty much stays the same throughout the entire movie. So really, like, to brand this movie as a romantic comedy is really a stretch. I think, because this really is more of like the character arc of Jonah Hill's character. Probably inspired a little bit by his real life. That's the vibe that I get from him a little bit. Like, he's this, like late 30s, early 40-year-old guy who I very much believe is maybe not as much as his character, but I very much believe he's at the cookout. You know what I mean? So yeah, he was the only character that felt like there was intention and time put into it. Everybody else was pretty much a placeholder.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, the characters were terrible.
Yeah, characters were terrible. And he wrote the movie. Terrible. Not good.
That's not good.
Not good at all.
Yeah.
So, Netflix, do better. More nuance. We need more nuanced stories. Like, we can't have a Guess Who's Coming to Dinner plot in 2023. Like,
or if there's like, at least make it like nice, man. Like,
yeah, and I just, like,
it's
besides,
just like, how are you gonna do that when it's like they've been making these movies since like the 90s?
What else? You have to figure out what else do you have to say about it. Because I think at this point, we understand the idea that white culture and Black culture are different. Duh, right? They can clash sometimes. Duh, right? But what else do you have to say about it? That's what I felt like was missing. Because to me, there was nothing else communicated other than the fact that, like, we're different, but like, we can be together. No shit. We know that, right? What else do you have to say? You know what I mean?
It's nothing
Netflix. New. What else do you have to say? That feels like a good place to end.
Yeah.
Thank you guys so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week. And thank you guys so much. Also, make sure that you reach out to us. We want to start really reviewing more Kenyan content, especially new Kenyan content. So hop in our DMs, hop in our comments. Let us know what new Kenyan content you're watching. I've seen a lot of people be talking about Real Housewives of Nairobi. I've heard some not so good things. So maybe we'll check out an episode or two. But you guys let us know. We want to talk about what you care about. And yeah, have a great weekend. See you later, Buffers.
Have a great weekend, guys.